Good morning.
Good morning.
It is Wednesday, June 18, 2025. The hour is 9:30 a.m. This is the regularly scheduled monthly meeting of the Nevada Taxicab Authority Board. I will call us to order. The record should reflect that present are all 5 members of the board, administrators, staff folks, and I would like to call on Member Weekly to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Having reviewed affidavits of posting and confirmations of receipt and posting, it appears to me that this meeting has been properly posted and noticed and agendized in compliance with the open meeting law. Are you in concurrence, Madam Secretary? Takes us to agenda item 2, which is our first public comment session. This matter is on our agenda pursuant to NRS Chapter 241, that is open meeting law, for the purposes of allowing the public to make comment to us on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the board. While we may not take action on those items today, we would welcome members of the public who would like to so address us. Is there any member of the public present in the hearing room in Las Vegas, Nevada, that would like to provide public comment? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, is there anybody online who would like to make public comment?
No.
Having no public comment, we'll close agenda item 2. That takes us to agenda item 3, which are the minutes of the meeting of May 21, 2025. Member Weekly was excused from that meeting, so he won't participate in the vote on this matter. But are there any, I'm correct about that, right?
Well, let me ask a question, if you don't
Were you
mind.
present?
So I want the record to reflect that I wasn't physically present, but participated virtually. How does that work?
You can vote on it. I did not know that you were
Okay,
there.
because when you look at the minutes here, where it says not present, excuse me, from the board meeting, it gives the appearance of being absent, and that means not being able to participate. But as you all will know, we had some audio issues that were going on where you all couldn't hear those of us who were online, but I think someone acknowledged, I think that, Madam Secretary, I think it was you or someone acknowledged that I was on virtually. Okay. So I'd like for the record to reflect that and not appear as if I was absent.
Okay, then I think that the minutes should be corrected in that respect, and my error.
No problem, Mr. Chair.
That you were present, participating virtually or remotely. So with that, are there any other changes, additions, or corrections to the minutes?
Motion to approve with Member Weekly's correction.
Second. It's been moved and seconded by Decker and Graff. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Thank you, Member Weekly.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Agenda item 4 is our regularly posted matter for taking discussion, input, comments, suggestions, questions from the industry. We'd open up if there are any members of the industry that wish to bring something to our attention at this time. Seeing a massive move toward the table, is there any member of the industry participating remotely who'd like to address us? And I will close agenda item 4. Agenda item 5 is a discussion item regarding the adoption of our uniform system of accounts manual for Taxicab companies, which were previously in the Nevada Administrative Code. Just for background and for members of the board recollect, in our recent temporary regulation proceedings, we agreed and adopted a repeal of those regulations, adopt a new regulation that moves all of the systems, uniform systems of account to a manual that's maintained by the authority. This item is on the agenda for us to begin the process of adopting such a manual. As you may recall, we discussed that a number of other agencies do the same thing for accounting processes or certain kinds of matters, so that have frequent changes like accounting rules to prevent long delays necessary through the rulemaking process to bring those matters current with either technology or developments in an industry. That regulation requires, as I recall, that the manual be delivered to us by the administrator, and then within 30 days, a notice of a public hearing to be conducted. That notice requires 20 days advance notice to the carriers. Ms. Webb, if I misstate something here, I'm not reading it, I'm going off of memory here. Or maybe it's right in front of me and no, it's not. And then after that, we can conduct a hearing to consider it. Is my general understanding that you are prepared to deliver it to us so that a notice could be posted anytime in the next 30 days. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there anything else staff would like to amplify that discussion on?
We will publish it as well.
Pardon?
We will publish it as well.
You will publish it?
Chair, sir.
Yes.
Can I just clarify? We've approved regulations that the agency will take to the Legislative Commission to get
Correct.
approved and adopted. I just wanted to clarify that we didn't adopt them. We've approved them.
Yeah, we, correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Correct. You are correct. We have approved them. The Legislative Commission will actually allow us to adopt.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that doesn't occur, Ms. Webb apprised me this morning, that can't occur until July 1st.
The last few days of June will be 35 days
Oh, okay.
that we have to wait, and then we'll be submitting to get passed.
Okay. So there may be, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things we discussed last month was trying not to have a lapse of time between when the regulations, the accounting regulations ended and when the manual started, but there's not really a way for us to avoid that. There will be a period of time during which there won't be accounting rules.
Less than 3 weeks.
Pardon?
Less than 3 weeks.
Less than 3 weeks. And you have till a few days before July if you need to do some kind of an enforcement, start any kind of enforcement action.
Yes.
So I don't know that we're at great risk there. Are you concerned about that?
I'm not.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts on this matter? We don't need to take action today, I don't think. Is there any action you need from us? No.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I apologize.
No.
Is there a period of time with this manual that the industry also has an opportunity to review and provide input?
No.
And then the other question that I had, part two of it, Mr. Chairman, is, and how often is this manual updated?
So good questions. On the input, the regulation that we adopted requires that after the manual is received and that notice of hearing is issued, that there must be service of notice and a copy of the manual made available to the industry 20 days before the hearing. And then at that hearing, they can come forward and present comments, suggestions, changes to the manual at that time. So that, yes, the answer to the first question is yes, there is intentionally a process by which the industry can comment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Administrator, but I believe actually you've already received some suggestions and comments from them as to why do we do this. AICPA rules don't require this kind of inventory anymore. The second question, or the answer to the second question is, the manual sits there until the authority says we want to make an amendment. And then there is a similar process where they deliver the amendment to us. And within 30 days thereafter, there's a notice. There's a 20-day service of the amendment. So there is not a requirement for routine changes, but there is a simplified process for making changes, where you don't have to go back through a rulemaking with workshops and all of that. Is that responsive?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns, corrections of my parlance? With that, we will close agenda item 5, which takes us to agenda item 6, which is a report from Administrator Parks on the pending proceedings before the hearing officer on the Desert Cab application for a pass-through software license charge.
Thank you, Chairman. Briefly, there have been deadlines that have come and gone and being met, and I know Administrative Attorney Lona Webb is probably better equipped to give the update as she's intimately involved with the whole process. I've been doing my thing away from her, so I'll let her go ahead and finish that up.
Still unusually quiet on the outside, which I think will probably change very shortly because we have some tight deadlines coming up. I did do a third order, clarifying some issues, maybe tightening up some issues. And everyone knows that the hearing date September 17, 18, and 19, and we do not intend to have it moved.
And I think everybody's available those 3 dates, right? 17 through 19. That's our regularly scheduled. We start after our regularly scheduled meeting on a Wednesday, and then we go Thursday and Friday to the extent necessary. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Can you refresh my memory, if you know, when will we receive the pre-filed? We're requiring pre-filed testimony so we can read the testimony and don't have to hear it live for a day or 2 days or whatever. And then there'll just be cross-examination. This is the way it's set up. So
Today is the day, I believe, for pre-filed testimony that's due.
Today?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see if they file it or not, because I said I don't want the discovery filed with me until you're ready to put together your briefs. But the pre-filed testimony is pre-filed testimony, so I would think they would file it. So we'll just see how that goes. In any event, the briefs are due about September 1st, maybe.
But the pre-filed testimony would be something we would be able to have, say,
In
sometime in
advance.
July, so we can read it at our leisure. We don't have to cram it in. I think that would be the preference of board members, not to be given 3 days to read whatever. Mr. Graff would like to just do it in 3 days.
I would. Pound it out. Has somebody produced the settlement agreement?
I've seen nothing.
The settlement agreement of the underlying case or the
That gave
settlement?
rise to this
Oh.
whole motion and everything else. We're gonna need to see that for the hearing. Saying it out loud and in public, so everybody knows.
Member Decker, do you have any other things you feel strongly you need to see?
I do not,
Either of you?
Mr. Chair.
I'll kind of add, so it's a rate case, so rate case rules will apply. I think it will be important to know the state of the existing contractual relationships between the parties. For instance, contract between Captain and Desert. Because that may shed light on some aspect of the whether or not this is a cost of service or not. Because that cost of service theoretically right now is baked into rates, right? For the current technology. So I say that by analogy to something I do. If you're in a rate case with NV Energy and it wants the ratepayers to pay for a new solar power plant that a third party has built, they have to produce the contracts that show what the cost is to NV Energy of getting that power at wholesale. And then there's a determination of what is the appropriate rate of return for having gotten that contract, and they build that into the rate. So I think that's why I'm raising that. By analogy, that seems like something we would need to see. We haven't looked at that in the most recent rate case because it was already long ago baked into the existing rate. So we only looked at how we had to change that rate for market conditions. But good point, Member Graff. Anything else?
Mr. Chair.
So at some point, it would be, I think, helpful for us to get, do people want a physical binder with the pre-filed testimony, or do you want it electronically, or do you want it both?
Personally, electronic.
Electronic?
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Binder?
If I could get them both, that'd be great.
Both? Okay.
Electronic side.
Yeah, but we're gonna end up getting binders without the hearing, I'm
Mhm.
assuming.
Yeah.
So, just electronic for review.
Okay. So, do you want both to begin with?
No, electronic is fine.
Okay, so electronic, yes.
When is the discovery deadline?
Did not bring that order with me. It might be July 16th. Might be
July 16th, mid-July. I don't think we need to embody anything in a motion. We're just asking for information.
So.
Anything further on agenda item 6? Thank you. To agenda item 7. Because it seems like rate making is all we're doing lately. This is a I think it's a continuation or a elaboration on previously agenda items since the spring for our annual review of existing rates, charges, and fares. And this is on for possible action for us to set deadlines for proposed submissions, hearing date, when do we want to tackle this. It's been continued a couple of times, largely, and Ms. Rushton can correct me if I mistake this, but largely because the LOA's expert was, Rivera was otherwise engaged in legislative activity. So he's ostensibly, the legislature's been closed for 16 days. He should be refreshed and ready to go. The rest of us are. I mean, remember Weekly's here and he was in that battle. So I guess I will start with, I would like to get the hearing set on this. And I think there are two arguments or two positions that can be equally supported. First is we could set this in August if we wanted to, and somebody will show up or not show up and give us input. And we'll do whatever we want to do. Because this exercise is theoretically independent of the item on agenda 6. But there is also, that's argument 1. Argument 2 is that it should trail agenda item 6 because 6 is also a rate making, and we may want to have the benefit of what decision we've made on that surcharge before we dive into increasing general rates. So, and I can see then we would set this in October after the September rates. So I can see either argument and I could support either result. I just kind of frame that there may be other issues that other board members have, or the administrator may have a desire that we get that rate, get this going.
What are the current dates for the September and the October hearings? Our monthly meetings.
Monthly in September is 17.
So we're going to have that, be in that hearing. We'll have this hearing and then complete it. So what's the October one?
Looks like it is the 15th of October.
Chair Reeser, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Item 6 is specific to Desert Cab, correct?
It's an application by Desert Cab. I think you raise one of the questions we'll have to ultimately grapple with, or you're implicitly raising it. That does just the applicant get the
Right.
the benefit of whatever result or the detriment of the result, and the rest of the industry does not.
Because until we know that, we don't know if item 6 pertains generally to
Correct.
general rates, basically.
And and there'll be all kinds of, there's, statute and regulation that governs how we would go about dealing with that. So yes, you are correct there. That's why I think they could be independent of one another, or they may be dependent. Or not dependent. One may influence from an economic standpoint, the elasticity of demand for rate increases. That look on your face, just do something, or you have something to say?
No, no, Chairman, I'm good. Thank you.
Anything else, maybe?
So what are the other deadlines and proposed submissions, and how far out do we want to do that? Because October, you know, we make our decision at the end of the 19th, or we go into executive session or whatever. Just, I'm just trying to wrap my head around that as to either if October 15th gives us enough time to do all of the things that we need to do.
Oh, for agenda item 7?
Yes. I agree with you. I guess my comment would be, we need to do one and then deal with the other, seeing as we've already set the one for September 17th, 18th, and 19th. I would say then we need to deal with the other after that. So that would be my inclination. And if that's the case, then I would like, as I think this agenda item says, set out hard and fast deadlines for, we get a submission from the LOA or whoever's going to submit it, a normal rate increase type package that we've asked for in the past. And if Mr. Aguiar is going to weigh in on that, then he needs to have time to prepare his report and for us to digest his report. I would like to have that report prior to the hearing so that we can go through it.
October.
Yeah,
If it were set in October.
exactly.
So I think my general recollection is that we got Mr. Rivera's report for the general rate case about 10 days.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, as long as we've got like a week or so,
Yeah.
so that we can, throw it on a weekend and take a look at it.
And other than that, it would be anything else a carrier wants to submit to us and anything the public wants to submit.
Right. And do we have any notice requirements for that, Ms. Webb?
Yes, we do have a 30-day notice that we're going to do an actual rate hearing.
Exactly. So I think just listening today, I'll do a notice of the hearing for October and November in case you don't have time to make a decision after the number 6 item in time to get everything ready for the annual review by the October board.
But do you have to question, if you notice the agenda item 7 for October 15th, I don't know that you have to notice it for serial meetings. We open it, even if we're not ready to act, we open it and then continue it as long as, so yeah,
I don't think so, but I've been told otherwise, but we might have otherwise. Just,
Yeah, Matthew Feely for the record. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head right now. I could certainly look into that for you.
Okay.
just in caution, I was
Okay,
going
well,
to do it.
I guess if you learn that the Attorney General's office position is that we can't commence the hearing and continue it without giving notice to the November meeting, then we should give notice to the November meeting. That's not what we've done in the
Exactly.
past.
Yeah, I just,
For instance, in the independent cab case, we opened, took testimony, and we continued it to 4 different times because there were so many witnesses and so much testimony. So
Jerry's another idea. Is there any possibility that item number 6 is part of item number 7, the overall rate? Is there any possibility that agenda item 6 is part of agenda item 7, our overall rate review, and they could be combined and that is part of the same thing? Because we're required to do an annual rate review, motions in support or against that review could theoretically be combined and heard as part of that rate review, right? Or no?
I don't disagree that it could theoretically be done. To me, agenda item 6 is a very specific case about whether a particular charge should be put into rates. Item 7 generally deals with the CPI's gone. There's a new union contract that raised labor charges by 6.5%. There is more general economic analysis or the lack of it, in which case we leave the rates the same, right? You may recall we handled the general rate case in about 2 hours. It didn't take a long time. Were you still acting? No, you weren't. You were? Okay. I mean, it was pretty well documented. The report was well documented from Mr. Aguero. There was testimony maybe from 3 industry folks about certain labor charges and costs of getting new car. I remember there was a lengthy examination by former Vice Chair Soderberg about cost of getting a car and a new car and getting it fitted, that kind of thing. But I see agenda item 7 as it's a bigger question, but a more efficient hearing than likely not any reflection on Ms. Webb's, but we're just going to have half a dozen lawyers that don't care about this at all, right? So I think we might end up unnecessarily complicating agenda item 6 by doing that. That would be my thought.
Then I would echo Member Graff in that we probably need to review item 7 after we review item 6. Because my worry is that if we have an annual rate review and then we have motions coming in at any time that the industry decides to present them, we've got basically all kinds of factors that are impacting rates that are being heard throughout the year, which kind of undermine our annual rate review.
Yeah, like the surcharge issue. That's I have strong views of it. Well, I'll take a swing at recommendation that we set this for October 15. That any person, including a carrier who wants to participate, file a notice of appearance 20 days before that. Together with whatever position they have. I don't really see it so much as an intervention as just knowing who the parties are going to be and what their positions are. So 20 days before, and that any economic analysis be given to us 10 days before the hearing. I don't see a need for pre-filed testimony in this particular matter. We just be sponsoring testimony of the report and anything that the industry wants to present, unless somebody wants pre-filed testimony. One way or the other. You don't care either way.
Either way.
Any other Entertain a motion then.
Move to approve that suggestion of setting the hearing date for October 15, 2025. Any notices of appearance for 20 days prior, and any economic analysis that's going to be prepared by anybody that filed the notice of appearance, that be done 10 days prior to the October 15th hearing.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda item 8, continued fiscal discussion of Taxicab Authority and biennium 26-27 administrative part. You're just going to give us a report, I think.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As you previously mentioned, legislature has closed. Our budget was cut quite a bit, positions. The member weekly, I know you're near and dear to the TAP program, and that was cut. Not completely, but a cap was put on it, which was almost half of what it used to be for our portion, which is really kind of heartbreaking to me. Talking with our dispatchers, they received calls from people that were on the program and now can't be on the program because of the cuts. But it is what it is. There's not a lot that any of us can do about that right now. So basically, where we're at with any type of increase, kind of waiting to hear from the industry on it. And I really don't have much more of an update other than that.
But at least at this point, we're good till the next biennium.
We are.
I mean,
Yes.
we have a plan.
Yes, our budget's been passed for the next biennium, and it is what it is.
So for the next biennium, at the end of this biennium, you're solvent through the end of this biennium.
Yes.
Do you start the next biennium with a reserve, or do you start the next biennium with a revenue problem?
As it sits today, we start basically even. I mean, there's a little bit left, but not much.
But in the interim, there's reclassifications and.
There's a lot going on within the state for sure.
Right. So
So essentially, if industry is going to step up with a fee increase that's going to replenish your budget for the future, it's going to be done within the next 2 years.
basically, the industry's got to come up with a plan or.
Well, they've discussed it before.
Right.
It didn't happen prior to the end of the legislative session, which would have possibly impacted the cuts you've made, or the cuts to the TAP program, or any of the cuts that were required to be made. You didn't get a fee increase. So you're solvent, but you haven't solved the revenue problem, which means that if anybody is going to step in and offer a fee increase in order to, impact the future of the agency, it's got to be done essentially within the next year, because you're going to start proposing your budget for the next biennium in about a year.
Correct.
Gotcha. Just wanted to throw that out there in
it's
case anybody was.
about a year runway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But no action could be taken until the legislature comes into session.
Right.
Right.
But he can put it in a proposed budget,
Yes.
which would change your budget request for 28 and 29. But if there is no increase or idea that his budget request for 28 and 29 could theoretically involve cuts, it could involve other kinds of fee increases, or whatever you have to do in order to not be at zero.
And I will say that the legislature opened the door for the tech fee to be used in other ways other than just tech, which has been historically the way that tech money has been used. They also opened the door to maybe the interim finance committee if we needed to go that route.
So theoretically, a fee increase offered by industry could be implemented prior to the next legislative session if you went through IFC in the interim and got it approved.
Either IFC or the board raising the tech fee.
what was the monetary amount that the TAP program was cut?
Not to the dollar, but around $160,000 or $170,000. We had a cap of $200,000, and I think we were paying around $360 to $370, something like that, for the session.
Is there any ability to have that privately funded, that amount that was taken away?
By donations.
A contribution, by us considering something from the industry, by anything?
I would suggest that if that was the will of the industry, that they would go to aging and disability services and work that out with them, because they're the recipients of that actual money. It wouldn't have to pass through the TA.
And then what is our shortfall in the next biennium? Last time I think you said it was like 240 or 250. Maybe I'm wrong.
But didn't that get fixed by taking away positions?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. We were solvent. I don't think we have a shortfall at
Okay.
the end of the biennium right now. But
What's our projected shortfall then in the next biennium?
well, there's so many things that can happen. I
Okay.
mean, between the labor union things and there's just the classification study. All of it will have an impact on the budget.
So theoretically, at the end of this biennium, you're at zero. You have no reserve, but you're not in a deficit, which means that there's no money for new employees, for any raises that are ordered by the state, any benefit increases, any extra enforcement. So assuming that there's no additional crime on the street between now and 2 years from now, they'll be in great shape. But if we believe that unlawful rides for hire are increasing and that there's a need for enforcement, or an increased need for enforcement in the future, cutting 4 officers leaves him at the end of the next biennium with 4 officers down and in basically the agency condition that we're in 6 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, it's actually 3 officers and an 8A position, because those are the positions that were cut. The enforcement positions are at the higher dollar amount. And I'm just going to have to kind of see where this goes on how I'm going to make the agency run as smoothly as we can with what we have.
Is another variable increased trips though? If volume of trips went up, would that affect the budget?
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
so to the extent we can drive more traffic by policy, we may be able to fix the revenue part of it as opposed to the expense part of it. So there is something within our limited capability if we can figure out ways to drive.
I wasn't aware there were any petitions to lower rates.
Well, no.
I'm just
there-
joking.
even, you know, agreed. I'm just saying there's fiscal policy and then there's regulatory policy. So there may be regulatory policy that could be considered to try to drive more traffic. For example, if there's a way to use technology to get more ridership. So that be more competitive against agencies.
Chairman, if I may, there are a couple of things going on in the background that hopefully will help to this point, getting ridership up. You guys are aware of a pilot program that I had approved. That's moving forward. I think there's been a couple of bumps in the road that the LOA may want to address with the board either today or whenever they're ready. I'm also waiting. I spoke with Curb Mobility this morning. They're getting their proposal ready as well. And I believe that both of these things will help ridership. I believe that ridership will go up. Don't know how much. I've heard some basic numbers out there, but I don't know for sure until we work on it. We are already working with one of the new proposed meters, working the kinks out of that. So that program's going down the road. The other thing, now that the legislature is over, I know that the director's office is still interested in merging the two agencies, the Nevada Transportation Authority and our agency. Most times when there's a merger, there is a cost savings. So I'm hell on that as well. So
That wasn't proposed in this legislative session that just ended. So at this point, that's pie in the sky. I would not rely on that as being a tangible factor in whether the agency remains solvent in the future. Because if that were going to be proposed and implemented, we just finished that window.
yes, correct.
I tend to agree with Member Decker on this because since I became chair in 2021, I've been asked to appear 3 times in Carson City about merging the two and to the Sunset Committee and get asked lots of questions, but then there's no action. So I don't know that I don't know what the will, or if there, it may be not a lack of will, but a lack of answers.
I appeared in front of the Sunset Subcommittee in 2018 as the interim administrator of this agency. So this is
it's been going on for a while.
This is a perpetual conversation. It is not going to rescue you from your budget woes in 2 years, and I would not count on it.
But I do think, give thought, I ask you to give thought to, is there not so much fiscal policy, but regulatory policy that we might consider that would drive volume, make the industry more competitive with the people that are taking market share. Anecdotally, I haven't seen cabs in my neighborhood for the last maybe year and a half. And this week, I have seen 10 cabs in my neighborhood at the grocery store. I mean, it was interesting to me that they were out looking for rides or doing rides in neighborhoods that it's usually you see an Uber. So to the extent that that is driving, if they drive more ridership. Anyway, just a thought. Anything else on agenda item 8?
They're out there looking for rides.
Not in the labor. I'll close agenda item 8. Take us tonight. Item 9, administrator's report.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I get into the stats, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I believe we spoke briefly about it in our last meeting, is on the 30th of this month, we're going to implement a program for the WAVE vehicles, the wheelchair accessible vehicles, to be able to bypass the pit at the airport. And they'll be able to go up on top and stage in a couple of areas that we've mapped out. And there's no need for a wheelchair accessible vehicle at that point. They will be able to get through the line, take a regular passenger that does not need the WAVE service. And so it'll hopefully incentivize drivers to get in the WAVE vehicles and be able to bypass the pit. So June 30th is when we're going to start that. The airport's on board with it. They're ready to have that happen. I think the industry, the comments that I've received back, I think they're excited about it. And hopefully it's going to help that program succeed. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of a report for you on the next meeting on how it goes as well. So if nobody has any questions about that, then I'll go ahead and dive into some stats. Okay. The total monthly trips for May, as you can see, they were pretty much even with what we had last month. I had Curtis Mel give me, I wanted a pie chart, but he gave me a graph chart instead. But, over the past several years, I don't think you guys have this one in your binder, but our rides have really pretty much leveled off. They're not quite as high as they were last year at this point, but they're within, they're very close. So I don't know what that means, to be honest, other than I think we're at least level. And with things like the pilot project, hopefully that's going to boost those numbers up even higher. So taking members, Decker's clue of trying to not do as many stats. We'll get through these a lot quicker as we move forward. I didn't get these out of the book this time. Our decals, the lease decals was around 2,000. It was 1943 for the month of May. The medallions have not changed. Again, 35 medallions. For the agency stats, we had 69 citations. I don't know for sure what the decrease was, other than maybe the drivers are doing better, or I did have a lot of people out this past month for various reasons. So we had 4 long hauls and we had 5 impounds for the month. And most of those violations, again, were resolved without going to hearing. So I always like to point that out. It means they're good cases. Accidents, they were up a little bit from 321 this last month to 296 from the month before. Dispatch events, those were up quite a bit. Obviously, we had EDC during the month of May, so I think that probably was a big reason for the increase in the dispatch calls that we had. Monthly vehicle report, again, pretty consistent across the board, but I did want to point out that there's 3,191 cabs that are in service. And I think that's important that the number of cabs going in service continues to rise. And I think some of that has to do with the leased vehicles. And there's definitely a need. I still believe that there's plenty of rides out there that need to be had, and I like seeing the cab numbers go up. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
On violations, are the amounts of the fines statutory or are they regulatory?
We have basically a bond schedule for certain offenses that when Ms. Webb is the hearing officer goes by. And kind of the way the process works is if somebody's given a citation, they come in on the date that they're supposed to be there. They can either settle right then, and it's actually at a little bit of a reduced rate. If they take it to hearing, then they can take it to a hearing, and Ms. Webb will hear the case at that point. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, but are the amounts of the penalties statutory or are they?
They're set out in NAC, aren't they?
They're out of an NAC, yeah.
So one regulatory policy that we could consider in the future is that those fines should be increased to deter behavior.
Do the fines go into the general fund or do they go into your reserve?
They go into our reserve.
They do?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because some of those, by comparison to other agencies, some of those fines, I'm not sure are deterrents enough for some of the conduct. If you were driving without a CPCN, it ought to really hurt. I mean, really hurt.
The issue is you have to be consistent with the NTA's fines theoretically, though.
And then if that were the case, if it really hurt, then there ought to be newspaper articles written about how much it hurts.
I will say that the impound cases, those are not in the NACs. Those are solely up to the hearing officer, what is given as a fine, no CPC.
But we certainly could adopt some guidance on that. Anyway, I'm thinking of levers. But I've also looked at some of the fines. I'm going, sounds like a cost of doing business to me.
Especially for the UPT drivers.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe we look at when's the last time the fines were adjusted
yeah.
as an item that we discuss next hearing.
Definitely before my time.
Yeah,
Speaking to where in space where Rusty and I deal with other agencies, a lot of other agencies are deciding, there's no problem with a $10.5 million fine for doing this. Cannabis, gaming, financial institutions.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think you might want to look at that and come back with some ideas about what we could do to help. That's punishing this behavior. It's not a tax. And
It would be nice to have a fine that was commensurate with a deterrent for UPT drivers.
Correct.
Because like you said, if it's a cost of doing business and I got 10 illegal cars out there making money all day long,
that's right.
I don't mind paying $1,000 to get one of my cars out of impound.
Exactly.
But I might mind paying 10,000.
For 35,000
Right.
cost of the vehicle. So
That's all I've got.
other questions on statistics? Legal counsel, anything, Ms. Webb?
I have nothing, sir.
Any future agenda items other than maybe fines going up?
Is that for us or for them?
Them or us?
I'd ask that we put that on the agenda next time.
Which one?
Just kind of an analysis of all of the fines, when they were last changed, by what they were changed by, and then the relation to the NTA's fines and similar, for limos and other commercial vehicles, that sort of thing. And then maybe do an analysis of the fines that are charged by gaming's probably not analogous just because
DMV though.
DMV is not a bad one.
The truck driver the interstate truck driver who's not
Yeah.
complying with state law, my understanding is those are expensive.
They are, most of our fines are criminal.
Oh, okay.
So we do levy regulatory fines against dealer violations, body shop violations, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would aim higher.
Huh?
I would aim higher.
Aim high, aim higher? Okay.
Yeah. Right now, it's up to $1,000 misdemeanor criminal citation for an unlicensed.
Well, yeah, if it's criminal, it's not very helpful.
Right, and it starts less with the administrative. So it's the repeat offenders where it goes up, but it goes up to where you guys already are on this side of the
So,
house.
yeah, but yeah, give some thought about.
Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to the NTA and find out what they're doing on fines. I don't know if it's changed since I was over there, but I'll reach out to them and find out what's going on.
Any other future agenda items? That closes agenda item 9, takes us to agenda item 10. That's our second public comment session. This is a matter set on our agenda pursuant to NRS Chapter 241, open meeting law. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address us on matters within our jurisdiction. We may not take action on those items, but we welcome comments from the public. Is there any member of the public who would like to address us in the room here in Las Vegas? Seeing none. Is there anybody participating remotely who would like to address us? Seeing none, I will close our second public comment. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 1 hour meeting. Congratulations.
And,
Solid, solid.